Yo guys, what is going on? It is Invin here, and today what I am bringing to you all is a video on some top upcoming New World traps that you guys need to avoid. Now these are going to be based off the developer update video that we got just a couple of days ago. I did cover it here on the channel, so if you want to know all of the information from that, you can go back and watch that video. But essentially we've got some huge changes coming over the next month, and particularly in July when we're going to be seeing our next content patch where we're going to get the summer event going live. We're going to get the new Barnacles and Black Powder Expedition, as well as the Expedition Group Finder. So it's looking like a juicy couple of months, particularly, like I said, that July patch there. But this also brings with it a ton of changes, and these are going to be things you guys are going to be doing to prepare for this patch that you need to not fall into the trap of. So hopefully I can save a lot of you some money today, and also save you wasting your time on a couple of things here as well. Now, jumping straight into it, the first thing is going to be the crafting sets. They're basically making these a little bit easier or a little bit more straightforward to get your hands on. So that is going to be things like your engineering or your weaponsmithing, like you can see here on my screen. These sets. Now, obviously, some of these are pretty difficult to get your hands on at the moment, let's say. These are going to be a lot more straightforward, or potentially even more options to get them going forward. We haven't been told specifically what is going to be happening, but essentially some of these are pretty expensive right now, and what I would say to you guys is do not overspend on them. They are going to become more accessible. If not in June, then it's going to be July. Probably July is what I'm thinking, and essentially what you're going to do is save a lot of money by not spending it on those now. A lot of people who are up to date with the dev update video have already started to try and sell these at a discounted price, which is essentially they know it's going to come down, so they're trying to get it for like 18 instead of 20k, when actually they could be down to like, I don't know, 10, 12k at least, if not less than that, once these changes occur, depending on how much more easy it is to get your hands on these sets. So just bear that in mind. Now, the next thing is going to be, there is some massive changes coming to perks. Now, this is particularly important because it means that there's going to be a lot of the bad perks, or what we're seeing as not so good perks, getting buffed. And so therefore, some of them are going to be much better. And what you will also see is weapons like this Warhammer right here, where it has Sundering Shockwave, the weapon ability perk, actually on the weapon itself. This is going to give the perks a huge buff. Now, they've said a huge buff. We don't actually know how much that's going to be, or what any of these buffs to the other perks are going to be yet. But particularly with the weapon ability ones, so for example, ones where you have it on the armor. So let's take these legs that I have, which are my 625 legs right here. They have Enfeebling Maelstrom on the legs. This is going to be less powerful a version of Enfeebling Maelstrom than if somebody had it on their Great Axe. So this is going to mean that a lot of players might want to switch around their build. It could be that the new meta is getting the two best weapon perks, or the best weapon perk for each weapon, actually on the weapon, and then the rest on the armor. Or it might still be to put it all on the armor, because actually having it on the weapon, there is better things to have, and the buff might not be that much. We just don't know yet. So my advice here would be wait and see what the perk buffs actually are. Wait and see what the difference is going to be for ability perks between the weapons and the armor before making a big investment into BIS gear, or best in slot gear, or kind of what's best for your class right now, because a lot of things are going to be shifted around in the meta with these upcoming updates. Now that leads me nicely on to the next point, which is just simply to not spend on BIS items. Although we've talked about the perks there, this is also going to be more commonly the case in crafting, because what they're doing is essentially reducing the chance that you will get things like your Beast Bane or your crafting trade skill type things when you are crafting these items. So when you do craft something like a Shade Walker's robe right up there at the end game, once you get all of these materials maxed and your level maxed, etc., and you've got all of the sets, these can roll really highly, but have been kind of a bit hit and miss for most players, because you could get some pretty trash perks. Well, what they're doing is obviously you're still going to be able to get those, because sometimes people want to get a particular trade skill perk on some items, but what they're going to be doing is vastly increasing the chances of getting a combat perk versus a random Beast Bane or a random +5 to trade skills, because that is going to make these much better, and of course is what most players want to be getting when they are rolling items. Now that in turn is going to mean that the BIS gear may still well be BIS gear. Again, it depends on the perk changes I talked about in the previous point. However, what it is going to be, even if it is the same gear that's BIS, it's going to be a lot cheaper, because there's going to be a more common ground to be able to find this gear, and therefore the price is going to drop. Even if it's just a few thousand gold, you're going to save yourself a bit of money and probably be able to afford the rest of your pieces a lot quicker. So again, I would hold off on that until we know what these changes are actually going to be, because you're certainly going to save some money on that. Now, the next thing here is going to be to stock up on your expedition keys. As you guys can see, I've got 3 Tempest ones and 3 mutated ones on me here. This is going to be super important, as next patch, these are going to be disappearing. That is in the July patch, sorry, not the June one. These are going to be completely disappearing from the game, and as such, what you will get is just a bunch of loot from that expedition boss. So it's the final boss of the expedition. I don't know with the mutated ones as yet whether they're going to give us Umbral Shards. We can just wait and see for the notes on that. But essentially, Tempest one there, you would get the loot from Isabella. It's not quite as good as running it because you don't get all of the chest loot and all of the other boss loot, but you will get the final boss loot there, so it is a very good thing to do. Stock up on as many as you physically can. That way, even if you don't run most of them, you will still just get a big influx of loot, and this will link onto a point that I've got in the future in just a moment here. Now, the next thing here is dual stat items like this bird here, where it's got 20 dex and 10 intelligence, are actually getting a huge buff again in the upcoming patches, and that is going to be that these items, when they are max level, so 625, will provide more than a plus 31, which if we have a look at the Warhammer, it gives me plus 31 strength over the 2 stats than obviously a single stat. So single stats will still give you the most for that one. So like a strength build here, plus 31 strength, the most you are going to get is from something which is a pure strength item. However, if you are running like maybe a mage dex build here, where you've got dexterity and intelligence, you would end up with more than 31 points. We don't know by how much, again, without the notes yet, but some of these dual stat items, and of course dual stat armors as well, could be really good depending on your build, and you might want to, again, switch out to them. So it could be a big meta shift in terms of base gear, but it could also be that you are going to be able to get some really good pieces very cheap, especially if you run an off meta build like a lot of you guys do. You run some funky builds like focus and strength, and those sort of items are going to be a lot cheaper, and they're going to be a lot better after these patches. So certainly save your money until then, and then try and grab some of them, because it's going to be a lot more beneficial to you. Now, the final thing here is that they are going to be adding a new method where you can salvage expedition specific loot. So for example, items like the Settler's Friend here, which is actually one of the named items that you get from specific expedition. Now, these will, after the patch, are going to be able to essentially be salvaged down into a brand new resource. Now, this resource can then be collected and used to craft a specific expedition item that you might want, whether this is things like the Lazarus Bow, whether it's going to be the Fury Warhammer or the Blackguard's Warhammer. All of those things are going to be able to be crafted. Now, even if you already have some of these items, the reason I would say stock up on any of these items that you do get right now, the named drops and things like that, the specific expedition drops, is because some of the changes that are coming up with these July updates is probably going to mean that some of the ones that are not great now from the expedition loot tables are actually going to be a lot better because the perks are getting buffed. So you're certainly going to want to make sure you're going to be able to get a lot of this currency, and that doubles back to the point I made, the fourth point in this video, which was to stock up on the expedition tuning orbs, because again, you're going to get a big influx of that final boss loot. Therefore, in turn, you're going to get some of these expedition specific items, which then means you're going to have more to salvage, more of the new currency to get, and then be able to get whichever the best items are pretty early doors, which could be a huge boost to you and your roster of weapons and armor and gear and things like that, because some of these things are really going to be buffed with the new update. That is going to be it for today's video, guys. Hopefully you have enjoyed. Hopefully this saves you some money. It gives you some ideas and things to think about when you are preparing for these upcoming updates. I know June might be a little bit of a slow month. I don't know if we're getting any update as an official monthly update. We are going to be seeing beefier quality of life stuff coming in the upcoming weeks, but we're not going to be getting any specific content this month. So this is just some things to be thinking about whilst you're playing the game and trying to get prepared for this July one, which is looking like it's going to be a big beefy update. Other than that, guys, that is going to be it for today. If you haven't already done so, please do make sure that you drop a subscribe and a like down below to the channel. Both those things massively help to support my content, so I'd really appreciate it. And other than that, I will catch you again very shortly on a brand new upload. So thanks for your time, thanks for watching, take care, and peace.